News Talk 820 WBAP now on, WBAP and 820 AM. What am I saying? News Talk 820 AM and now on FM at 93.3, making a preset. I'm like Joe Biden, but almost half the age. Our number is 800-288-WBAP, 800-288-9227. Hour number 2 of the show, Chris Crock Show. Now, in just a moment, as promised, this is a real big deal to a good amount of people, and that is the North Texas Tollway. And they come after you, and what could be a $10, $20, $30 amount owed can land you in jail or in court, and can turn a fine of can turn an owed $10 to $20 or $30 into $200 or $1,000 or thousands of dollars. I'll give you some stories from the Dallas Morning News. Dallas Morning News has been doing pieces on this, kind of a series of pieces. We'll get to that coming up in moments. But I wanted to just finish off on the Hunter Biden trial. So, fake news CNN saying this shows the justice system isn't rigged because Hunter's on trial. No, this is going to play out because everybody in that courtroom says they know the Bidens. Everybody on the jury pool knows the Bidens. You cannot live in Delaware and not know them. Not only was he the senator for Delaware for like 50 years, he was a vice president and lived in Delaware, still always has all his life as an adult, at least, for 60 years or something. And his name is all over federal buildings. His name is all over the roads, his last name, and at least. And he, of course, beyond being a senator for 50 years, he was then a vice president for 8 years and now a president for 4 years. And now his son's on trial. Okay. Now, you have many people on that jury that have lost somebody to drug addiction or know somebody and has somebody in their family with drug addiction, with heroin and other serious things. So they're going to have most likely sympathy. And so it's stacked with that. There's the jury's, I think, almost at least half African-American women, which will give those jurors will bring in a lot of forgiveness and compassion, which is a good thing, but not if you're looking for justice. I don't know, though, if they're going to see the disparities between a powerful, wealthy, white privileged, not white privileged, but white and privileged person by his dad's power, right? As an issue, but I would think not, because the numbers of, as you know, it's African Americans voting for Democrat is through the roof. It's like 90% or 88%. Now Trump has peeled away 22%, but here's the thing: almost all of them are black men. And so if I'm Hunter's counsel, I want as many black women on that jury as possible, because they're most likely extremely loyal Democrats, probably love Biden, love what he does for the community, even though we all know he milks it and bilks it and does that stuff. But nonetheless, you really could get jury nullification, which means the jury says, yeah, he did it. He's guilty as all get out, but he's gone through enough. We're going to be the justice system by just saying, yeah, we know he did it, but we're not going to convict. We have compassion on him, and he's done enough, and he's been, being tortured publicly through all this. So I think that's going to happen. I don't think it's going to be a not rigged system. And the sweetheart deal that was thrown out that he agreed to and Joe Biden's Justice Department agreed to is the proof, all the proof you need how rigged it is. So here's my question on that. And by the way, this comes on the same day, brand new, that the Republican Congress, people in charge of the Congress there, sent criminal referrals to Joe Biden's Justice Department for Hunter Biden and Joe's brother James because they lied under oath. It cut to Congress, and that's a crime. That's a felony, I believe. That is not that's a felony. That's not a misdemeanor. That's a very serious crime. When you're in official testimony, you testify under oath. So I think that's great. I'm okay with that, but I'm not okay with some state and local lawmakers are already saying they're going to, not state and local officials that are in justice, like DAs and stuff and attorney generals of states Republicans are now saying they're going to be bringing charges publicly, according to the New York Times. So that is bad. That's bad because I'll share with you later. and when we get a little political on the race lately of the Trump versus Biden, an unbelievable 2-page story from the Free Press quoting 2 or 3 liberal Democrats, maybe 4, that voted for Hillary Clinton in 2016 over Trump. And they're liberals. And they say, I'm still a Democrat, but I'm voting for Trump because of this prosecution. They know it's naked and it's bad. You have several people that are interviewed that are on the record Democrats. They are not Republicans, or they're never Trumpers, and they're now saying they're voting for Trump because of this prosecution. If we do the same thing before this election, that's going to be very bad. Okay? That'll almost nullify this. Okay, so do you think Hunter Biden's trial shows that our justice system isn't rigged by Democrats? And are you okay with Congress and local and state prosecutors going after Dems like they went after Trump? 800-288-WBAP is our number. 800-288-9227. As I said, Congress going after him is great because they lied, and that's a felony, but not the locals. Hunter Biden smoked crack every 20 minutes. His ex-girlfriend Zoe Castan testified today at the gun trial. She met him at a stripper. She was a stripper at a place in 2017. It was late at night. But another image shows prosecution of the jury was a photo of Hunter wearing a shirt with "addicted" in all caps printed on it. I thought it was funny because he didn't smoke weed, she recalled. But there was a pipe. She said that was a crack pipe from my assumption from what I saw. They also produced testimony of Biden to Hunter with texts and digital stuff from his laptop that's been the FBI confirmed in the trial. This is official. We confirmed it, everything with Apple and everything. It's his laptop. As we all knew, Joe Biden lied. He wrote the letter that said 51 former intelligence agencies. He recruited them to put the letter together, and then a week later he said, that's a bunch of garbage in the debate. And he pointed to what he created, that memo, through Anthony Blinken, who was running his campaign, one of his top campaign people at that time. So anyways, that's kind of what we have there. But there was this is on my Twitter feed. The digital forensic evidence they displayed for the jury today was they showed an intersection in Wilmington, Delaware, where the trial is, and he said, "I'm meeting Mookie." It's literally what he said, quote, "I'm meeting Mookie at the intersection of blank and blank by the 7-Eleven. They showed a picture of that intersection, and they confirmed it through his WhatsApp or his text messages that were on, digitally available to the laptop. And he said he was buying crack, and it was like the day of or the day before, the day after. So he was actively doing this, and it's proven in his digital records. Okay? North Texas Tollway Authority is overly harsh and called a dysfunctional empire. This is from the watchdog at the Dallas Morning News. He was part of our 100th anniversary or 100 and something or other anniversary that we had a couple of years ago in Fort Worth. That was an amazing time, and I got to be the tour guide on the bus and go with people to the Broadcast Museum in Fort Worth. It was awesome. I am up there on the wall. It was very nice, very, very cool. I really feel great about that, and I thank them for that. So I want to know if you or someone you know has had a bad experience with NTTA. Were you able to get it worked out? Do you think the state needs to regulate them? I have a friend who's a police officer who helped one of our mutual dear friends from church who is from another country originally, and they were coming after him for something that wasn't his fault, and there was no traction. So that's when he went to our mutual friend who was a police officer here in the Metroplex, who took over and was amazed how difficult it was. And he ended up going to the state and got some assistance, and with the right levers he pulled, he was able to get it all taken care of for my friend. And it's amazing. So I know that a lot of you might have disdain for the NTTA, or that you might have, they may have come after you for something you didn't do or you didn't know. This is the time to call in and share your experiences with it and what you think we should do, what you'd like to see happen, and how wrong do you think you were or somebody you knew was. I have railed against people that ignore or refuse to acknowledge when the NTTA lets them know how bad something is. Hey, man, you owe this. You got to pay it. And they don't call them and work with them. And that is a huge reason why a lot of this goes down, just so you know. I don't feel sorry for those folks. If you ignore stuff and you refuse to acknowledge it, then whatever happens from that point is your fault. But some people aren't even knowing what's going on. It's sent to the wrong address or this or that. And NTTA is reportedly ruthless. However, I've dealt with them and I've never had any issues. I'll tell you my stuff, but you may have, and I want to be open to that. And I do think there's a solution that we can work with on this. All right, we have Nathan in Saginaw, which is going to be very interesting. He had a strange experience. This is great. Rack them up, y'all. Call in with your experience with NTTA where you've been wronged or had a bizarre or difficult experience with them. And I'm going to tell you my friend's idea, the cop who shall remain anonymous. We're very close with him and his wife and his kids. We love them very much, and I'm proud of my friend. But he gave me a great solution, and I'm going to talk to you about that coming up next as well. 3 lines open, 800-288-WBAP, 800-288-9227. Have you or someone you know had a bad experience with NTTA? We were able to get it worked out, and do you think the state needs to regulate them? All that next on the Chris Crock Show. We have 3 lines open. Chime in now. Let's go. News Talk 820 WBAP now on FM at 93.3. Make it a preset. We have 3 lines open, 800-288-WBAP, 800-288-9227. The Watchdog and the Dallas Morning News, who is one of their, the Watchdog, I don't agree with his politics in any way, shape, or form. But there are he does some great work, and I like the guy. We follow each other on Twitter. We met at the anniversary for our 100th anniversary for WBAP a few years back. That was a great time. Anyway, let's do this. Let's go right to your calls. But the questions I have on his piece entitled "The North Texas Tollway Authority is Overly Harsh and Called a Dysfunctional Empire." I'll give you more details from what he purports here. But my questions are: have you or somebody you know had a bad experience with NTTA? Were you able to get it worked out, and do you think the state needs to regulate them? And, I actually do think they need to. And I'll give you the solution in a minute from my friend who's a cop who helped out a friend who was in need with this kind of a thing. 800-288-WBAP is our number. 800-288-9227. Chime in right now. Let's go to Nathan in Saginaw. You're on 820 AM and now 93.3 FM WBAP.
Okay, I appreciate it. I've got a short story. Mm-hmm. I went to get my eyes checked, and I went through a toll that I never even saw that it was a toll. It wasn't advertised or anything. In fact, it was a construction zone.
By the way, that is what one of my cop friend was saying to me. We talked for a little bit yesterday on all this, and he said that's it. Sometimes you don't even realize you're on a toll road. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I was kind of aggravated about that. And anyway, so I got this ticket through the mail, and everything, and I outpaid it. And then time went on, and I sold my car, and then I got a ticket for a toll, and I knew I hadn't been back that way. I only went that way once because for my eyes, and I just never would go that way.
Mm-hmm.
And so I jumped through all kinds of hoops. There was a number I could call, and so I did, and then that number led to another, and I went from hoop to hoop, and I even talked to the guy I sold it to because he's in the business of selling cars and things.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, and I showed him the ticket, and he said, "No, that car is not in your name. I assure you, it's not." And then finally, I talked to somebody, and he said, "No, it's not in your name. I'll tell you what you need to do is I'll send you some paperwork. You fill it out, and send it in." I go, "Well, what about this $3 and I think it's 62 cents or something stupid?" And he said, "No, you don't have to pay that. Don't worry about it." So I said, "Okay," and I just forgot about it. And I never did get that stuff he's going to send me in the mail. And then time went on again.
Oh yeah, here we go. Mm-hmm.
And then along comes this ticket for 13 something, saying that I didn't pay that first one. And at the first one, it was the principal thing. I could have paid $3. I could have paid that in my back pocket. But this second time, I thought, man, this is going to go on and on and on. I'll just write
check or whatever.
And I'll be through with it. But I'm not so sure I'm through with it. You know, I could get a ticket in the mail any day.
How long was that you gave that you sent in the $11 to just say screw it? I don't want to deal with it getting worse.
Well, it's been 6 months ago now.
Oh yeah, okay. So was it sent to your house?
Do what?
Was it sent to your house?
Yeah.
Okay, and did you say you called them? Right? I think you said you called them or.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so I think what happens is one of the things that happens is people don't call them and work with them. You know, they've been pretty good for me. Well, I had a credit card, or I don't use credit. Well, I have a credit card that expired, and or we had to switch it from the fraud alert or something, and. I didn't switch that over, and I got a thing, and I'm like, okay, right away, I switched it over. I'm like, I've heard so many nightmares. So I appreciate your call, and I think you did the right thing. Because
people try to do the right thing, but I don't even know where this whole thing is.
Right.
It hadn't been there for 40 years.
Oops, sorry, we lost you. That was my fault. I apologize, Nathan. That was my fault. But I'm glad you corrected it, and you should be fine. And why don't you call them up and make sure it's done to be safe. That's what I would do. Russ and Hazel, you're on 820 AM and now on FM 93.3 WBAP. Hello.
Hello. Hey, yeah, no, I had a different experience with the NTTA.
You had a pleasant one.
Well, it was kind of pleasant at first, but in the end, it wasn't. But I actually had the unfortunate pleasure of living near Chisholm Trail, where 820 meets at 377 when it was being built. And I drove through there every day. I lived 2 blocks down the street. Drove through there every day, and then one day they had the construction coned off like crazy, and there was only one way to go. And the cones led you on to the Chisholm Trail, tollway.
Yep.
And then right back off of it. And that was all it did. And it led you there. There was no signs. There was no literature. There was no anything that said you were doing that. And so I had to drive to work. So, of course, I took that route. And, a month later, I got a bill in the mail for $32.
Whoa.
Yeah, to go on the tollway.
What'd you do? Do you have an NTTA toll tag?
At the time, I didn't. I do now, but at the time, I didn't. And I fought them tooth and nail. I called them. They responded to me and everything like that. They were nice at first. And I went back and forth with them. There was no signs. There was no anything.
Let me put you on hold so I can hear the rest of this. I don't want to rush this, okay? Stand by. All right, we've got 2 other calls. We got Scott in Centerville after you, Russ, and then we got another call that's being lined up, and then we got 2 lines open. 800-288-WBAP, 800-288-9227. This is a little expose the Dallas Morning News is doing on the NTTA and how there's no enforcement when they mess up. And I have not given you my solution that my cop friend came up with after helping one of our friends from church, or mutual friend. Okay, that's up next. Have you or someone you've known had a bad experience with NTTA? Were you able to get it worked out? And do you think the state needs to regulate them? 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. News Talk 820 WBAP, and now on FM at 93.3. Make it a preset, y'all. 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. And the sweeping piece done from the Dallas Morning News, several of them. My cop buddy is listening, and he said the solution, he says, is he ended up calling a state employee, and she doesn't actually deal with the NTTA, but she got him the information. She's in the department that you might think does. It's the Senate that has the power to regulate. And he says it's unchecked power with the NTTA, and somebody that can get you arrested, jailed, or brought into a courtroom that's civilian, not civil courtroom, but civilian, should be held in check by laws or regulation. And I agree. My buddy, our mutual friend, my cop buddy advocated for, he got screwed over, not at NTTA. He got screwed over actually at the one in, I think it's Corpus Christi area. And the number would not go through. The people would not pick up. There was nothing. There was no way to advocate. Just you're screwed. That was it. His thought is, and my thought is, why don't we create a state ombudsman's office for the tollways in our state? Or what about a couple of local people picked to be ombudsman for DFW or South Texas and East Texas and West Texas, wherever the tollways are in those regions? That way you have a team of maybe 2 or 3 or 4 people that can see a case, review it, and adjudicate it with you, work it out, and if need be, use the crimes, make a crime if somebody's a scofflaw. So that's a good idea. I'm not against that. Regulations are not good, but sometimes they're called for. Something like that is called for here. You're welcome to chime in on that. But the questions is, as we talk about the Dallas Morning News and the Watchdog doing pieces on the NTTA really screwing people over sometimes, or misunderstandings that end in a bad way, or they get arrested. Or one woman was jailed, he says, a single mom. I hate the whole single mom angle. So you laid down with somebody and popped out kids and you're a hero? I mean, animals can do that. I just hate a single mom. So? I mean, I guess you're more of a victim, maybe, but maybe you're not. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? I just, or, it's military. It doesn't matter. Somebody's been wronged or not. You don't get special status because of these things. That's what I'm trying to say. That annoys me. But anyway, here's the questions. And then we got lots of you guys we're going to go right to and just blitz through a bunch of calls. And I appreciate all your stuff calling in. This is what it's all about, sharing our stories. Have you or somebody you know had a bad experience with the NTTA? Were you able to get it worked out? And do you think the state needs to regulate them? 800-288-WBAP is our number. 800-288-9227. Let's go to Scott in Centerville. You're on 820 AM and now 93.3 FM WBAP.
Chris, it's Scott, the head of the Chris Crock fan club.
Well, wow, it's you, my friend. Wow, how are the charter members? Everybody paying dues? Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, they're all paying dues. I think the NTA's got part of them, though.
You put them in. Listen, you put them in. Remember, we refer them to the criminal authorities and the district attorneys for prosecution if they don't pay their membership. Go ahead, sir.
First of all, who owns the NTTA?
I believe it's I don't know that question. It's a good question, but I think it's a private entity.
That's right.
Yeah, it's
how can a private entity put restrictions on driver's license and all that? Why don't they just send you to collections like any other company? Why do they have such a state? I'm sure the state is making some money off the tolls. They'd have to, otherwise they wouldn't allow them. But I'm wondering if it's not a Chinese company that owns the toll roads, or I heard that there was definitely a foreign company. That
I believe there is an Italian or some kind like that. But let me just say this. You were saying, what was the thing you kind of let out, or kind of the thrust of what you just said?
How can a company?
Oh, yeah, that's it. How can they regulate? Here's what I want to say about that. I was discussing this with my police officer friend who's listening, who advocated for my friend and got it taken care of, but suggested this all to me as far as everything. But listen, I told him, well, here's the difference. Your car driving is not a right. It's a privilege. A driver license can be taken away, and it's not driver's license, it's driver license. A driver license can be taken away if you violate things, or if you're a drunken driver, or if you have reckless driving. You are not entitled to a license, and you're not entitled to be on the road. You're not entitled to be on driving without insurance. You can be barred from owning a car, and if you're a deadbeat dad, you can lose your registration and not legally drive. Okay, so I would say if you do something that the state allows you to be punished for criminally, then it's because you're driving and you don't have the right to just drive. Makes sense.
But what would stop my doctor if I didn't pay my copay from putting a restriction on my driver's license?
Your doctor is not something that your doctor's not a privilege. Your doctor's a business, a service. And this is
so you're saying because you're using the toll road, it's a privilege. You don't have to use it.
Right.
But if you use it, it's the privilege.
Well, no, it's not. The toll road is not, in my opinion, is not a privilege. Driving is not a right. It is a privilege. Right. And it's a choice to drive. And therefore, when you drive, you're subject to other things that can take away your ability to drive. or your ability to. I mean, because
if a private company should do that. If it's a state toll road, yes.
Well, they will argue this. Let's talk this through a little bit. I'm not trying to convince you. I'm just telling you. They'll argue. That's why this is good, because we're all kind of thinking together and sharing. So, the toll would argue we don't do it. The police do it, and we just report it to them and share with them, and then they prosecute it. Well, they arrest, and then the DA prosecutes it. Or the county or the city prosecutes if they have a judicial system.
Well, there has to be some tax revenue then to the city for doing that.
I like the idea of an ombudsman, though.
Yeah, I do too. The other thing, though, is contractually, what I wanted to bring up is the toll roads actually suck as far as quality. I mean, have you ever ridden on them? My kids love riding on them because they bounce up and down.
Okay, I'll tell you what that is. I know what that is, and it's not their fault. You're not going to believe it. The NTT, the Dallas North Tollway, for example, is perfectly smooth and good. Also, the tollway, the underground one for LBJ is perfectly good.
Right.
Okay, you're talking about. I know what you're talking about. I know exactly. No, it's not. It is not in southern Collin County. It is where you're talking about is between heading from the Dallas County over to the Tarrant County side via
all the way to Arlington.
That's not a problem. That's not a problem. It's not them. It's not them. I do that all the time too. You know why? It is the soil in that area. You know why? You know what happens? You know what the foundation companies like my friend Jim Dutton from Texas Home Improvement will tell you. He's going with his own foundation and plumbing company that I use all the time for years. And do you know what how much the soil separates, expands and contracts in that area compared to Dallas and Collin County areas?
Obviously, it's substantial.
It's 3 to 4 inches, I believe, separation, movement, and something of that nature. And in Tarrant, in Dallas and Collin, it's more like, I think, 1 to 2. So
but did they not? These engineers not know that?
No, they know it. But here's what the problem is: the NTTA can't dig down, 500 feet or 300 feet or 200 feet and replace the soil.
Sure.
That's what it is. It's the soil. It's like your house. If your house is built anywhere where the roads are like that, what do you have to do? If you don't water your foundation the way you're supposed to, like Jim's taught me, you will have massive cracks in your house. It'll be worse there than it is in Dallas and Collin. I can't speak to Tarrant. I don't have knowledge of where it's like there, but yeah. So.
But part of that, our tolls are supposed to pay to correct that.
Well, then that would mean you're calling for them to water underground every square inch of tollway when that's not done anywhere in the world that I'm aware of, in the country at least. I mean, it's not feasible.
Well, but I'm just saying, if we're getting in the whole crux of what the news article,
what you need to do is not live there and not drive there. And it's not. I'm telling you, that is not NTTA's fault.
Well, I get that, true. But what I'm saying is, we're paying tolls to get something in return. A nice toll road, a quicker way to get somewhere.
I'm going to repeat this. Well, let me rephrase it a different way. You're paying for the road, and if it wasn't the NTTA, the same road right there would be the same way. You cannot build a road that's not going to be like that at all. Doesn't matter who makes it. Genghis Khan could come back to life and make it perfect, and it would still do that over time.
Right. Well, one quick thing, and then I'll let.
Or as John Kerry, the ghoul, would say, Genghis Khan. I can't remember.
That's right.
Genghis Khan.
Do you remember when the accident happened, Chris? The ice accident on the toll
that was in Tarrant. Yeah, it was on the toll road, downtown.
Do you know if you gauge the tolls, how much they've gone up since then? I mean, quadruple.
Yeah, well, it depends on the time.
Now it's $8.
Yeah. It depends on the time frame you're going to and the congestion.
Or they need to pay off a lawsuit.
Well, no, that was not their fault. That was not their fault. You got to do your research. And if you listened to the show back then as a fan club member, you would know they treated it. And that brine stays on it for a long time. They use it the way you're supposed to. They did not underbrine it. They may have had a teeny bit, but it was nothing compared to what many think. I got to go. Thank you for your call. Kenneth, Sandra, Lewis, John, you are next. We're going to go to Lewis and then boom, 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 Kenneth, etc. All right, next on the Chris Rock Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM 93.3. News Talk 820 WBAP now on FM at 93.3. Have you or someone you know had a bad experience with NTTA or other toll authorities in Texas? And were you able to get it worked out? And do you think the state needs to regulate them? 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. We have two lines open. Let us go to Lewis in Fort Worth first. You're on 820 AM and now 93.3 FM WBAP.
Hey, good night to you from good old Fort Worth, Texas here.
Amen.
So, first of all, I agree completely on the soil issue. Born and raised here and lived in several houses around the city. And outside of Austin, I think Fort Worth moves the most. So I concur there completely. However, I think the other problem we have is if we're going to regulate the toll roads, we've either got to really make a ton of money that's publicly transparent to us drivers that spend money with the NTTA and other toll roads, because anytime you get in an express lane at rush hour, trying to say get to the Love Field or up by DFW, you're at the mercy of the 5 or 6 tractor trailers that like to drive 61 or 55
on the toll
75, and it just backs up. And actually,
are you talking about the single lane one along? Was it 114 or something? I did that one a bunch recently. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it's the single. The
Yes.
worst one is the single lane.
Yes,
on
on 114, right?
Is it 114? When you're
It's a joke.
when you're on the south of the airport, it's a joke. I mean, what do you pay? Sometimes up to $15 to try to get somewhere quick, and you get backed up behind a lawnmower.
I did that. You know what I did? I got out at the first time I could, and then got back on the highway, nailed it, and then got back on. And it's the most pathetic, stupid, angering thing. And my guess is these people that are doing that and going so slow, like you said, are working and they're not paying the toll. So they're like, I just drive on it always. I don't have to deal with it.
Right.
But they won't go fast. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm hoping somebody's getting a pretty decent charge for that. Because if it's $15 for me, if there's 6 or 8 axles. That'll be at least $100 for that convenience.
I don't know what Guns N' Roses has to do with that, but go ahead, please.
The number of you clever. Nice. Anyway, that's the point.
Thank you.
And I've actually been on a toll basis. I've actually been fairly successful. Actually getting it adjudicated. When my toll tag wasn't working, there was a placement on a new car and it wasn't taking it. I went into the toll station, and maybe it was just luck of the draw, but whoever was there was able to see what the bill was, make an adjustment to it, and give me a new tag.
Good. By the way,
to
huge tip for anybody. It is your responsibility with a rental car to put your stupid tag on there. Take it off your car, put it on there. If you forget, you're going to get nailed, and you're going to get an extra charge from the rental car company. It's your fault, all of it. They warn you, they tell you. Have your head out of your rump and do it. Not you, Lewis. All. Thank you, brother. Let's go next to Sandra in Lido. You're on 820 AM and now 93.3 FM WBAP. Hello, Sandra.
Hello, and I want to thank you for the refreshing conversation.
You're welcome.
And I just wanted to know whatever happened to those individuals that got caught on the toll road during those ice storms, and they received hundreds of dollars for bills because their cars had to be left there during the accidents. And the toll road said they weren't going to take care of them.
They were billed for just occupying it, or they were billed? Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good question. I would say it's not their responsibility to remove your vehicle and tow it somewhere.
Yeah, they got their vehicles off, but during the ice storm when the accidents happened, and they were stuck on the toll road, they had to, leave, and they were taken off the toll road, but their cars were there for, a day or so during these storms, and they could go back and get it, but they were charged several hundreds, if not, I know.
For a day or two?
Yes, and
I never saw that. I didn't catch that in the news.
It was an article. Yeah, it was an article that the paper had written, and they had contacted the toll company, and they said, nope, sorry, we'll take it into consideration for future incidents, but for this one they have to pay it. So I was kind of
let me tell you this though. I'll tell you this: unless somebody's dead or hospitalized, where your spouse is focused on you and not the car, with my experience, I don't play around at all. ever.
Oh.
And so if I'm, walking away from that, which a lot of people did, I am having it towed that day within an hour. And if it can't get done, I will call my top insurance company that I've been with for 27 years because of that. And you can't beat their rates or they get tied. So I'm never leaving them still. I just checked. They're great. Yeah. I wish I would name them, but they got to pay me. So, I ain't doing nothing for free for them. But it would be towed, and they would take care of it from there, and it would be gone within a day or so. But if you can't extricate it physically, that's a different situation. So I appreciate. I appreciate.
You could go. Go ahead.
No, that's wrong. I appreciate your call, though, Sandra. Great call, and I thank you for your refreshing call too. I feel like I just took a little mouthwash and brushed my teeth. Thank you. Okay, bye. All right, John and Hurst, you're next, my friend. More information, more details on this story coming up next as well on toll tags and people getting screwed over on them. Also coming up, we have never Trumpers and Democrats switching to Trump after his conviction. Trump goes to a sold-out fundraiser in a massive, wealthy, all super way leftist blue city. This guy's on fire. We're going to talk about whether this is actually something that's really big now and going to just grow. 800-288-WBAP, 800-288-9227 on the NTTA, asking you, have you had somebody, you or somebody you know, had a bad experience with NTTA or another tollway in Texas, and were you able to get it worked out? And do you think the state needs to regulate them? That is next on the Chris Crock Show on News Talk 820 WBAP and now on FM at 93.3.